authorities in the Eastern District of Moscow are investigating a deeply unsettling mystery after workers at a local pond uncovered something that instantly halted the entire area. Inside an abandoned bag, they found a child's backpack, a small, purple school bag. What was hidden inside pushed investigators to seal off the park within minutes. Forensic teams, emergency divers, and investigators moved in rapidly. The search widened far beyond the water, eventually leading officers to a cluttered apartment in the nearby city of Balashika. There, they discovered the rest of what had happened to the young boy, a child no older than 10, living with a severe physical condition that required constant care. The main figure in the case is the child's mother, a 31-year-old woman currently listed as the sole suspect. Early claims she made about a stepfather involved in the incident are no longer supported by any evidence. Investigators believe this person may never have existed and could have been invented in an attempt to mislead the investigation. Authorities report that the mother had been under psychiatric supervision and struggled with hallucinations and dangerous behavioral episodes. Her social media pages were filled with chaotic messages about crossing worlds, astral signs, and strange abilities. During initial questioning, officers stated she was barely able to speak due to heavy intoxication. Later, she admitted involvement, though her explanations centered around voices and warnings. The child's grandmother claimed she had seen the boy leave home with a supposed stepfather, but investigators say surveillance footage and witness accounts strongly contradict her statement. Officers are considering that the grandmother may have attempted to shield her daughter from responsibility. Based on early findings, officials believe the child lost his life inside the apartment, and the bag was taken to the distant pond to obscure details of the case. Curiously, there was another large body of water much closer to the home, a detail that investigators say raises new questions. Experts are now conducting a full range of examinations, psychological evaluations, medical analysis, and trace studies. The apartment and pond area continue to be searched repeatedly. The mother has been detained, and a court decision on her custody status is expected soon. Officers described the case as one of the most disturbing they have handled in recent years, and warned that what they uncover next could be even more troubling than the initial discovery. New footage from a live webcam overlooking Scotland's famous Loch Ness has stirred fresh debate among longtime believers and skeptics alike. A dark shape rising several feet above the surface appeared briefly on screen, moving with slow, deliberate motion before disappearing beneath the waves less than a minute later. The anomaly was captured from the Shoreland Lodge's viewpoint, a popular location for monitoring the lake. It emerged shortly after a tourist boat passed through the area, leading some observers to claim the movement could not have been caused by waves alone. Veteran Loch Ness watcher Owen O'Fotagane, known for submitting more than 24 potential sightings since 2018, was among the first to document the event. He described it as one of the clearest shapes he had ever seen and promptly filed it for review in the official Loch Ness Sightings Register. Despite more than 1,000 historical reports, scientific scans from the lake have never produced confirmed evidence of a large unknown creature. Still, supporters of the legend insist the lake's depth and murky waters could easily conceal life that rarely surfaces. For now, the mysterious silhouette remains unexplained, adding another chapter to the world's most enduring cryptozoological mystery. A quiet school in Loei, Philippines, has become the center of a chilling mystery after a student with a reputation for unusual sensitivity reported seeing a dark, ghost-like figure drifting through the hallways. Administrators initially dismissed the claim, but as unease spread among the staff, they decided to perform a traditional cleansing ritual intended to restore calm. The result, however, was far from peaceful. Within days, 14 students suddenly began shouting, trembling, and behaving as though caught in a force no one could see. Teachers struggled to control the situation before rushing the frightened children to a nearby spiritual minister known for assisting in unusual cases. The minister conducted a protective ritual over the group, after which the students gradually regained clarity and were transported to a clinic for observation. The school suspended classes for several days, hoping to prevent further incidents. Local authorities, informed of the events, offered a surprising statement. Officers acknowledged that the children's behavior did not resemble typical panic, and some admitted that an unexplained phenomenon could not be ruled out. A spiritual consultant brought in by the school later declared that the children had likely experienced what he called a response of unseen forces, suggesting that the cleansing ritual may have disturbed something that preferred to remain undisturbed. As of now, classes have resumed, but teachers report that students avoid walking alone, especially in the dim, echoing hall near the old library where the first sighting occurred. In 2008, a young man named Jordan lost his life during a late-night confrontation. His father, Matthew, a trained psychologist, faced a level of grief he could not overcome. Traditional therapy, reflection, and time offered no relief. Years later, Matthew heard of a controversial technique said to help people cope with deep loss. Its goal was to guide the mind into a state where memories could surface with unusual clarity, sometimes so vividly that individuals reported sensing the presence of loved ones who had passed on. During Matthew's first session, something unexpected happened. In a moment of deep focus, he heard a voice, quiet, familiar, and impossibly clear. It didn't sound like imagination or memory. Instead, it felt as if someone stood just a step away. "Tell Mom. I'm here. It's okay. I love you both." Experts claim such experiences come from the brain retrieving powerful emotional impressions. But Matthew insisted the moment felt real, more real than anything he had felt since his son's passing. Over time, he reported additional moments of what he described as contact. Not visions, but impressions, a sense of presence, a whisper of guidance, a moment of warning or reassurance. The events inspired him to collect similar stories from people around the world. He now works on a book exploring whether the bond between parent and child can continue beyond what is considered the natural boundary of life. For some, his story is a symbol of healing. For others, a chilling possibility that the connection between worlds may not be as distant as believed. A tragedy in Oregon has resurfaced in public discussion after court documents revealed the chilling warnings of a 7-year-old boy who sensed he was in grave danger. Nathaniel Burton had repeatedly told relatives that he feared his mother intended to harm him, but despite his pleas, nothing changed. Nathaniel lived under constant emotional pressure in a home where he felt unsafe. According to statements collected later, he told both grandmothers about frightening experiences, including moments when he woke up unable to breathe. He warned them multiple times that his mother, Sarah Safranek, might eventually make him disappear. His family alerted social services, and officials visited the home on several occasions, but no decisive action followed. February 18, 2021, Nathaniel was rushed to the hospital, but efforts to save him came too late. Investigators believe the incident occurred the day before. His mother later accepted a long-term sentence after pleading guilty to a severe charge. Despite multiple earlier warnings, no intervention had successfully removed Nathaniel from the environment he feared. Relatives noted that he lived in constant anxiety, repeatedly saying he felt unsafe. Social services are now under scrutiny, with many questioning how a series of red flags resulted in no meaningful protection for the child. In a rural region of India, a heartbreaking story of loss and superstition has prompted calls for greater public education after a young boy's parents attempted an unusual ritual in hopes of bringing him back to life. The boy, a 4th grade student from Hathras, had lost consciousness after a venomous snake bite. Despite doctors' efforts, they could not save him. When the family received the devastating news, They refused to accept it, insisting that hope remained if they followed traditional revival beliefs practiced by some villagers. The parents brought the child back to their home, where villagers gathered for 3 days to conduct rituals they believed might restore life. The boy was covered with leaves and a layer of cow manure, a practice thought by some to draw out harmful energies. Villagers gently tapped his legs from time to time, watching closely for any sign of movement. Despite the community's desperate dedication, the ritual yielded no results. On the 4th day, local authorities learned of the situation and intervened. The boy's body was taken for proper funerary procedures and later cremated. Officials stated that no charges would be filed against the grieving family, emphasizing that their actions were driven by heartbreak, not malice. However, the incident sparked renewed discussion about the need for educational outreach in rural regions, where traditional beliefs can sometimes overshadow medical guidance. A deeply unsettling incident in St. Petersburg, Russia, has drawn nationwide attention after a 13-year-old girl was taken into custody following the death of her mother. According to early reports, the girl and her 46-year-old mother had frequent conflicts, often revolving around time spent online and the girl's passion for a popular multiplayer game. On the day of the tragedy, an argument escalated sharply when the mother restricted the girl's access to the game and limited her ability to leave the apartment. Investigators say the teenager had previously reenacted dramatic confrontations inside the game world, blurring the line between virtual and real emotions. Following the incident, the girl attempted to mislead authorities by claiming that a stranger had entered the home, harmed her mother, and attempted to set the apartment on fire before escaping. However, during questioning she admitted that the story had been fabricated. The case has reignited debate across Russia about online environments, youth mental health, and the pressures facing young players who retreat into virtual worlds during emotional conflicts. Officials are still determining the next steps for the teenager, who is currently under the supervision of child services and mental health specialists. Visitors to Chile's Lamari Valley captured an image that has fueled debate across the region. While hiking in the mountains, traveler Fair Valderrama Marin and his family spotted an object resting on a slope. At first glance, it looked like a metallic disc reflecting the sunlight, smooth, oddly symmetrical, and appearing almost placed there intentionally. Pictures taken by the family spread quickly online. Many viewers claimed the object resembled a classic craft often reported in unexplained sightings. Skeptics argued it was simply a tent catching the light at the right angle. But when authorities visited the site, they found no signs of hikers, no camp equipment, no footprints, nothing that suggested anyone had been there. To add to the mystery, the object was gone within hours, leaving only an empty patch of earth. Locals say strange glows have been reported in nearby peaks for generations. No official explanation has been released, but for the few who saw the photograph firsthand, the impression remains unsettling. Whatever stood on that slope wasn't supposed to be there. Drivers across the United Kingdom are once again reporting bone-chilling encounters on roads long believed to be haunted. One of the most infamous sites, Bluebell Hill in Kent, is at the center of the newest claims. Witnesses say they have seen the spectral form of a young woman wandering the roadside, appearing lost and in need of help. Several drivers claim to have offered her a ride, only for the figure to vanish from the back seat moments later. Others report seeing her standing in the middle of the road before disappearing entirely. Another notorious location is the Stocksbridge bypass in South Yorkshire. The A616 stretch near Sheffield is widely considered one of Britain's most haunted routes. Local lore suggests the road passes over land once used by an ancient monastery, and drivers have long reported sightings of a silent monk wandering the area. New research highlights several European roads with similar reputations. One of the most chilling is the B3212 in Dartmoor, Devon, known for over a century as the Hairy Hands Road. Dozens of drivers claim invisible hands attempted to steer their vehicle off the road, grabbing the wheel with unseen force. In Scotland, the Kinmount Strait in Dumfries and Galloway has a reputation of its own. Truck drivers, often passing through late at night, report seeing figures at the roadside that vanish upon approach. Many blame exhaustion, while others believe the area carries an unexplained presence. Whether legend or lingering spirits, these roads continue to produce stories that leave travelers uneasy, and more reports seem to appear every year. Authorities in Bangkok are reviewing a disturbing incident after a 65-year-old woman unexpectedly regained consciousness just minutes before her planned cremation. What was supposed to be a final farewell turned into a moment of shock inside a local temple, leaving witnesses shaken and officials demanding answers. The event unfolded in the province of Nonthaburi, just outside the Thai capital. According to the woman's brother, she had been bedridden for nearly 2 years and stopped showing any signs of awareness 2 days prior. Believing she had peacefully passed away, the man placed her in a coffin and drove toward a medical center where she had previously expressed a desire to donate her organs. The hospital, however, refused to accept the body due to the lack of an official death certificate. From there, the brother transported the coffin to a nearby temple for cremation. As the monks began reviewing details of the ceremony, a faint, rhythmic knocking sound echoed from inside the coffin. When temple workers hesitantly opened the lid, the attendees froze. The woman was alive. Staff members later explained that she had likely been knocking for some time but went unheard amid the preparations. The revived woman was immediately examined and transferred to a nearby clinic for urgent care. Temple representatives stated they would cover all medical expenses, expressing relief that the mistake was caught before the ceremony began. Officials are now attempting to determine how the woman's condition was misinterpreted and why no medical confirmation had been requested prior to transportation. Local health departments warn that even in remote areas, families should always seek official verification before declaring a loved one deceased. Authorities in the northern Italian province of Mantua have uncovered one of the most disturbing fraud cases in recent years. A 57-year-old healthcare worker allegedly concealed the passing of his elderly mother for nearly 3 years in order to continue receiving her pension. After her natural death in 2022, the man lived alone in a rural home and used his medical training to preserve her remains. When her identification card expired earlier this year, he reportedly attempted to renew it himself by disguising as her, entering a municipal office in a wig, makeup, and women's clothing. The unusual appearance caught the attention of staff, who immediately alerted authorities. Police followed him home, where they found his mother's preserved remains stored inside the house. He now faces charges including identity misuse, document falsification, and financial fraud. Italian officials noted that similar cases have occurred before, including a 2024 incident in which another individual stored a relative's remains to continue receiving benefits. Authorities emphasize that financial desperation and isolation in rural regions often contribute to such unusual attempts to hide the truth. The investigation continues as prosecutors attempt to determine the exact timeline of events and whether anyone else was aware of the situation. Tonight's first story follows a man who crossed the thin line between life and something far beyond it. In 2018, an American named Joe DeMeo experienced a moment that reshaped his entire existence. While driving late at night, he drifted off for just a second, long enough for his car to veer off the road. The vehicle ignited instantly, leaving the 26-year-old with critical burns over most of his body. Doctors kept him in a deep coma for 3 months, unsure whether he would survive. 2 years later, Joe became the first person to receive a combined face and hands transplant, a medical achievement that saved his life. But what he remembered from the time he spent unconscious became an even bigger mystery. Joe eventually revealed that while he was in that state, he was still aware of the world around him. He heard voices, felt the shifting of his bandages, sensed warmth and cold. At times, discomfort would slip into his dreams, mixing with surreal images. But what he saw in that other place was unlike any dream. Joe described endless rolling hills covered in fog, and walking beside him was his old dog, who had passed years before. The animal looked alive, peaceful, as if nothing had changed. "I don't think it was a dream," Joe later said. "It felt like somewhere you go when everything else fades." Scientists call these experiences near-boundary states, where the mind lingers between awareness and shutdown. But Joe insists nothing about it felt imaginary. He claimed he could sense motion behind him, hear faint footsteps, and feel a presence that seemed to watch him from a distance. As he recovered, relearning how to walk, hold objects, and accept his new reflection, those memories didn't disappear. Instead, they grew sharper, as if that other world refused to let go. Today, Joe lives a second life that medicine helped rebuild. But the memory of those fog-covered hills, and the loyal companion waiting for him there, remains a silent reminder that the border between life and whatever lies beyond may be thinner than we think. Residents of a quiet town in southern Russia were shaken after a woman discovered disturbing signs of a ritual carried out at the gates of her home. Strange symbols began appearing near the entrance, prompting her to install a camera for safety. What the camera captured left her terrified. A figure dressed in a dark cloak approached the property late at night, carrying the head of a cow and a set of candles. The person drew a large symbol on the ground and performed a ritual before leaving. Tarot cards were left behind as well. Experts later identified two of the cards, the Death Arcana and the Ten of Swords, cards often associated in folklore with major life changes, endings, or symbolic omens. While the exact intention of the ritual remains unclear, specialists say these symbols are commonly used in superstitious practices meant to intimidate or send a warning. Local authorities are reviewing footage and interviewing neighbors, trying to determine the identity of the cloaked visitor. Meanwhile, the community remains on edge, fearing the ritual may have been more than a simple prank. A chilling story from the United States has resurfaced after new interviews revealed the disturbing experience of Camilla Gent, a woman who spent nearly 2 weeks in a coma following a severe medical emergency. Gent, a spiritual counselor from Oregon, was rushed into surgery in 2013 after developing a life-threatening infection. After the operation, she slipped into a 13-day coma. During that time, she later claimed to have experienced a vivid, terrifying descent into a dark realm unlike anything she had imagined. According to her account, she found herself surrounded by shadowy figures that crawled near her and whispered deceptive visions about her loved ones. She described the place as a realm without comfort, filled with confusion and overwhelming dread. Just as the visions grew unbearable, she claimed a massive radiant hand appeared above her, pulling her upward. She reported seeing two angelic beings guiding her through a landscape of bright grass and blooming flowers that moved as though alive. In this peaceful domain, she said she encountered a presence she interpreted as divine, one that reviewed her life, her choices, and her struggles. Gent stated she spent what felt like 3 days in this peaceful place before being told she must return. The presence explained that her journey was not over and that she still had a purpose to fulfill on Earth. When she awoke, doctors were astonished by her sudden recovery. She now speaks publicly about her experience, believing she was allowed to witness both darkness and light so she could warn others and offer comfort to those afraid of the unknown. The villagers of Farabari, India, awoke to a surreal and unsettling sight just before dawn, a glowing human-like face suspended high in the sky. Some residents froze in awe, others stepped back in fear, but nearly everyone agreed, whatever it was, it didn't look natural. The luminous image hovered for several moments, its features faint yet unmistakably shaped like a face. Villagers speculated that an illuminated object behind cloud cover had created the effect, but many admitted the phenomenon felt far too deliberate, too defined, to be simple trickery of light. What caused the glow remains a mystery. Theories range from a rocket launch reflecting off cloud layers to the presence of an unknown craft passing behind the mist. Others whispered that it might be a manifestation of a paranormal presence, something attempting to reveal itself from beyond the ordinary world. No official explanation has been provided, leaving the villagers to wonder whether the sky will remain silent, or whether the strange face will return. Across India, one story has sparked emotional debate about family, tradition, and the unseen consequences of conflict. A young couple, deeply committed to each other, planned to formalize their relationship, but their families stood firmly against it. Beliefs, traditions, and religious differences created a divide neither side could bridge. Tensions escalated, and a devastating incident followed. Authorities later confirmed that the young man lost his life during a confrontation involving members of the girl's family. But what happened next stunned the entire region. Determined to honor the bond she believed was unbreakable, the young woman proceeded with a symbolic wedding ceremony in memory of the man she loved. His family supported her decision. She publicly distanced herself from her own relatives, declaring that some connections cannot be undone by force or fear. The story spread across the country, prompting passionate discussions about cultural expectations and personal choice. Many saw it as a heartbreaking reminder of how powerful and dangerous social pressure can become. Yet even now, the atmosphere around the event remains heavy, as though something unresolved lingers in its wake. What began as research for a paranormal book turned into a deeply unsettling experience for a writer who brought home a clown doll known as Knock Knock Harry. The doll, previously owned by collectors of haunted objects, came with warnings of unusual activity, warnings the writer soon understood firsthand. At first, the signs were subtle: cold spots, goosebumps, a sense of being observed. Friends who visited her home asked her to turn the doll around, claiming its stare felt unnervingly real. Curiosity led her to use a spirit box device during her research, a tool some investigators believe can capture voices through background noise. When she asked the doll to confirm its name, she claims a childlike voice responded clearly, "Knock knock Harry, hi." During another session, the atmosphere reportedly shifted. A sharp insult came through the device, leaving the writer shaken and unsure whether to continue. She later switched to using touch sensor light balls, which would flash in response to questions as if touched by unseen hands. The doll's presence was not limited to experiments. She reported hearing knocking sounds near the doll late at night, matching the nickname Knock Knock Harry. Despite the discomfort, she chose not to remove him from her home. Soon after, she was gifted another supposedly haunted doll, Edna. But instead of peaceful coexistence, she believes there is a power struggle between the two. During spirit box sessions aimed at contacting Edna, she often heard Harry's voice interrupting, insisting, "It's not Edna, it's Harry." Her book now explores not only her experiences but famous cases such as Annabelle, Robert the Doll, and Harold, the latter associated with frightening reports stretching back decades. The author warns curious collectors to be cautious. Haunted objects, she says, are not like the exaggerated stories from films, but the uncertainty alone can be disturbing enough. A driver traveling from Orizaba to Nogales in Mexico unintentionally captured a puzzling aerial object in a photograph that has since gained widespread attention online. The driver initially believed he had simply photographed a scenic hill, but while reviewing the images later, he noticed a strange disc-shaped form hovering above the horizon. At first he suspected it might be a smudge or reflection, but the object appeared sharply defined against the sky. After sharing the picture on social media, the image quickly sparked debate. Some commenters suggested the photo might show an unidentified craft passing over the hill at the moment the picture was taken. Others, more skeptical, argued that the shape could have been a trick of the light, a distant aircraft, or even an optical distortion caused by the camera lens. Experts have not yet analyzed the photo, but many viewers insist the object's smooth outline and position in the frame make it difficult to dismiss. Whether it is an unexplained aerial phenomenon or a mundane misinterpretation remains unclear. For now, the mysterious disk has joined the growing archive of puzzling sky sightings that continue to fascinate and divide the online community. In a remote village in Zimbabwe lives the Noda family, once united, ordinary, and deeply respected by their neighbors. Everything changed in 2019 after the passing of the family matriarch, Mbuyu Menala Panjeti Noda, only months after her husband's death. Locals initially assumed their departure marked the natural closing of a long life. But what followed convinced many that something much darker had awakened. Every year since 2019, a member of the family has died unexpectedly. There is no pattern, no medical link, and no warning. Villagers began whispering about a shadow lingering over the family, watching, waiting. But the losses were only the beginning. After the burial of their parents, members of the family began suffering sudden financial collapse. Businesses failed, jobs disappeared, homes were lost. Long-lasting marriages broke apart overnight, with some spouses leaving cryptic notes urging loved ones not to follow. Arguments erupted between generations. Younger relatives accused elders of inviting trouble through hidden rituals. Elders, shaken and weary, insisted they too were helpless victims of something they could not understand. Neighbors initially believed the chaos was merely an unfortunate streak, until 3 weeks ago. While cleaning the graves of their ancestors, the relatives discovered that the soil above the parents' resting place had been disturbed. Someone had visited the site under the cover of night. Next to the headstone stood a clay pot. Inside were objects that sent a wave of dread through the group, a sharpened metal blade and tightly knotted strips of cloth in multiple colors. Village elders recognized the items immediately. They were tools used in traditional dark rituals meant to bring misfortune, illness, or unending sorrow upon a family. The discovery confirmed the family's worst fears. Someone had wished harm upon them. Whether the source was a human rival or something far more ancient remained unknown. In desperation, the family began searching for a healer or spiritual intermediary capable of severing whatever bond had been placed upon their lineage before another shadow fell upon their home. Today, the Noda household sits in quiet terror each night. As darkness settles over the trees, every creak of the old wooden walls feels like a warning. No one knows who will be next, or whether the chain of tragedy can still be broken. A disturbing event in the Indian state of Tripura has left an entire community shaken. At Maharkera High School, a 12-year-old student entered a restroom during class, and within seconds, his scream echoed through the hallway. The boy collapsed, and once conscious, said he saw a dark figure standing inside. The shape, according to him, looked human, except it had no head. Minutes later, 3 girls from an older class entered the same area. All 3 claimed they encountered the same figure. Panic overtook them so severely that each fainted before they could escape. Teachers rushed the 4 children to a nearby hospital. Doctors found no injuries and no signs of contamination. However, psychologists noted intense fear and symptoms matching a severe panic episode. Parents were alarmed immediately. The school stands in a region where strange sightings have been whispered about for years. Some families demanded that the restroom be closed permanently. Others went further, saying the structure should be torn down to prevent further incidents. Specialists advised that the event could be a shared fear response. But the children insist the figure was real, motionless, silent, and positioned as if watching them. Classes have resumed, yet students now avoid the hallway altogether. Many refuse to go anywhere alone. Locals say a tense, heavy feeling hangs over the building at night, and some believe whatever appeared there once may return again.
You were born where the silence leans between my anger and no machines. Your first breath hit like morphine streams, breaking apart my metal routines. Your hands were small but they held the sun, while I was chasing the sun.